we got to do our propers. This is episode 56, Name Pipe with the PVC Crew. You know 56? How we get 56 of them things.
56 of them things.
56 of them things. You know how we get down. Shout out to all the subscribers, of course. Appreciate y'all rocking along with the squad. Of course, it's been a privilege and an honor to have y'all rocking. A lot of y'all been rocking since day one. A lot of y'all just welcome in. It's like you got a heart attack. So we appreciate all subscribers. If you are new, whether you're watching, since day one, whether this is your first time checking in, we definitely appreciate y'all rocking.
He was having a heart attack.
I know, he was like beating his putting.
I was giving my respect. Much love.
He was respect. Put his chest out. But anyway, you see the squad. You see the squad put together. We are connected like Voltron today, like we always are. But let me have my man Paul introduce himself and say what's up to the people. So.
What's up, people? Tuning in on this lovely Saturday, episode 56 on them things, my boy Cam saying. But as he said, it is an honor and privilege to keep doing this and keep rocking with the squad, coming up with new topics, new adventures and stuff like that. So just tune in and sit back. So I'm going to give the mic to my boy Vic. Vic, say what's up to the peoples.
Good evening, everybody. This is Victor of the PVC Podcast Crew coming at you again with episode 56. Again, like I said earlier, we're going to be talking about Father's Day today. And yes, it is Saturday, and it's technically tomorrow, but why not today? And we're going to be talking about some certain topics of Father's Day, some a little touchy, some a little emotional, but all of it true. And as always, I'm going to pass the torch to my brother Cameron here, a.k.a. Mr. Norboy Fresh.
Follow me on the gram and all that good stuff. You know how we get down.
Take it away, Mr. Fly.
He said Instagram, not selling gram. Get it
right. Yeah. Follow me on the gram, not on me. First of all, let me start here. Because we were talking about pushing product earlier, and they thought we ain't pushing them things. We ain't pushing peas here.
Whatever you do on your side hustle, but I ain't mad at you, man.
This is the best part about it. We're outside, we're walking down the street, there's just three of us, right? Cameron's audibly talking out loud, we gotta push product. You got two black guys and a Mexican, and one of them's talking about product. There's only one product that's gonna come to mind when people hear that. They're not gonna think it. He's lucky the sheriff wasn't around the corner, because he was about to say, oh, my quota.
First of all, I am not John Morant. I am not. Don't be dangling around stuff while I'm on the block. Y'all know what it is.
Cameron, like, do we have a problem here?
Do we have a problem? I haven't watched that in cool minutes, so I need to pull up and watch that.
New Jack City sitting over there.
Nah, I ain't need no Brown. Nope. But anyhow, it's definitely a privilege and an honor to do this. Shout out to all of you. Real quick before we go too far, shout out to our sponsor for today's video, Factor, of course. They've been rocking with us for the last few episodes. Appreciate them sponsoring us and doing what we do.
Thank you, guys.
We got a few things down the pipeline we're going to get into, like we talked about last episode. We're going to have a couple of guests sit down with us in the near future, so be on the lookout for that, of course.
Be ready.
Cause we got a few things spinning. It's summertime.
Summertime in the LBC.
It's hot. It's been gloomy. If y'all been in California for the last month, it's been gloomy. This has been the first couple of days that was actually you got the sun out. And it went from being suns out to suns out and buns out.
But it's still cold.
No, it ain't cold.
It's still cold. It's the weirdest weather. You think?
Man, it is 85 out there.
It was supposed to be 100 degrees today.
When you see...
Paul, you gotta understand, my brother. We got built-in insulation. Cameron does not.
I'm hot. And I'm gonna leave you alone right now. You trying to be funny. Yeah, the boy slim. The boy slim. Don't play too daggone much.
That wasn't me.
Play too daggone much.
I paused for a second because I had to comprehend all that.
Too much.
But
yeah, so we're going to dive. Normally we go into a pre-topic before we get into our main topic, but in this particular episode, we're just going to dive right into our main topic. Like Vic said, we're going to talk about Father's Day. And and like Mother's Day, when we did the episode a month ago, this is going to be pretty encompassing too. So here's how I'm going to lead the questioning off for the boys. I'm going to let the boys jump in early. What has your father's impact on your life has been throughout the ages?
Throughout the ages. Mm-hmm. All right, well, I'll take it first, Paul. You got some time to think about it then.
No, I had to think about it. Oh, go ahead about that.
All right, well, my father's impact has been mostly positive.
Okay.
Right? I mean, after all, I'm taking care of him still. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't do that for somebody you don't love.
True.
Right? But not everything he did was beneficial in the sense... I learned from him, and not in the way you're thinking, a lot of stuff of what not to do. Mm-hmm. Of what not to be. And if you were to ask him, he would probably agree. You know, he tells me a lot, he reminds me a lot, saying, you know, because of you, I've mellowed out. You know, because of you, I changed as a person. He said, if it weren't for you, I'd either be dead or back in prison. Well, you know, that's what he tells me. He means it, too.
Well, obviously, because he ain't back in prison, and that's right.
You know, my dad's older now. I was a very late child when I was born. My dad's like 73. Wow. Right? I'm only 24. So... there's a really big age difference there, but like I said, I was a late child.
You mean to tell me he was hitting at my age at 49? He was bang bang.
You know, I didn't want to go there, but it's just,
I kind of did the math. I was like, wait a minute.
Let me tell you now, my brothers and sisters, if you could do the math, then please solve the equation.
Yeah, he already put his age out there. You said
24 and 73.
Yeah, he was.
But that's why I'm taking care of him. But like I said, my dad, he did a lot for me when I was a child. He wasn't always the greatest dad, like any man. He has his faults. But ultimately, we both wound up learning a lot with each other in our lives. I didn't really know him until I was about 4 or 5, because when I was born, he was still incarcerated. And then after he got incarcerated, I used to visit him in prison. It was never bad. Mm-hmm. I would say the relationship we had was always stable, in the sense of that it was a stable, loving relationship. There was never any real drama between me and my dad, But, overall, the relationship we've had was one of beneficial and one of love, and I do love my dad, and I don't want any other. You only got one father that's better than him, and that's my heavenly father.
Facts. We'll get there. Brother. We'll get there in a little bit.
But that's just the fact. Humanly speaking, that's my daddy, and no one ever gonna change that.
You sound so country when you said that.
No, but he ain't wrong.
It's stupid. Mm-hmm. Mr. Bruno, talking to the mic, sir.
Yeah, you don't have to pull it too close, but
I just want to make sure
just project.
Gotta get my Lisa King voice.
Just me.
So, what was the question?
What has your father's impact been on your life?
Not a damn thing. And I'll say that with content. The reason why I say that, because I know my father, and my father knows me, but we don't know each other.
So no, you know of each other.
We know of each other, but not
know
each other.
I don't know.
I've been around him before. I spent some time with him, but it's not like I see him every day. It's not like he picks up the phone and say, "Hey, what's up, son? How you doing?" So just want to make sure you're still alive.
Essentially, you just put a name to a face, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, basically. So nothing irrelevant on a relationship I have with my dad. I cannot say it's all kisses and rainbows and stuff like that, because it's not. My dad's a hood person, so when you that type of person, you hardly be around your kids like that. Some do, some don't, but
that's not. It depends.
It all depends on the situation. I'm not gonna sit here and say all hood dads are trash, because some of them are not. Some make different decisions.
Some of them are as hardworking men you'll ever meet.
Exactly. But for me, me and my father, only thing we have in common, we just share each other first and last name. It's not like I lived with him before.
I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you look like him?
I don't.
At all?
I don't. No features. Sometimes I joke with my mom. I say, "You sure my dad really my dad?" She said,
you hit your mom with the argument. He hit your mom with the question.
She said, "You my dad?" And she told me, "You want a DNA test?" I said, "No, I believe you. I believe you. Back in the 80s, y'all was wild and free back then, but."
You really gonna pass up a chance to go on the morning show?
Wow.
Dang. First of all, that's kind of nice.
Nah, I couldn't be on that show.
Especially my mama, that's a little bad. You go to paternity court.
That'd be a disaster.
Judge Mantis?
That'd be a disaster in the making. But honestly, you know, and I have brothers on my father's side, which, you know, I haven't talked to. You know, we know each other. We, you know, hit each other on the ground every now and then. But it's like physically, I wasn't with my father like that.
Okay.
You know, years might go past, and then he'll pop out of blue out of nowhere, and then year go past again. Then you don't see him. So he wasn't there for my graduation. He wasn't there for me when I go to prom. Wasn't there when I got my driver's license. Just in general at all. So I have nothing really, really good to say about my father other than that. Just the person who just gave me life. And that's basically it right there. And, you know, I think that's why some part of my life, the way I am, is because, you know, I didn't have my father in my life like that. You know, everything I learned, I learned from my uncles or totally different strangers. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, my father was a good person to me, because he really wasn't.
Well, that's what we want. We want honesty.
I'm being honest with you. Because, you know, if I got Cat right now, I'm pretty sure he probably won't even give a damn. I mean, he might give a damn, but it's not like he's going to sit here and just drop everything for his son.
He ain't gonna ball.
Yeah. Because, you know, I'll say this to people who listen or people who watch them. It's been twice that I almost lost my life, and I'm pretty sure if my father knew about it, he wouldn't pop out of the blue and just come check on me.
So the best thing you would say about him is that he's a known stranger.
Yeah, I mean, only thing I can say, he sees me on Facebook. That's about it. But I probably does that on purpose so he can see all my accomplishments, see where he missed out.
Well, Paul.
But other than that, you know.
Well, we appreciate you telling us. That's what we want.
Honesty is honesty, right?
No. There's a.
This is what we're all about. We all got multiple angles.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's funny because you talked about your dad was probably not really impacted in your life. Vic, on the other hand, his dad is kind of at this point pretty integral in his life. Does that make sense?
What about you?
I'm kind of in between. That makes sense. So I'll take your half of this first. I haven't seen my dad in.
I remember this story now. Go ahead.
I haven't seen my dad probably like 25 some odd years, probably a little bit longer than that at this point. It's been a long time since I've seen my dad.
I haven't seen my dad since I think I was 18 or 19.
The last time I
About
saw
18
my
or
dad,
19.
The last time I saw my dad was.
Shit, I'm getting old.
No. I'm just saying. I think I was. I said like 20.
I'm sorry. Just, you know, when you had to think about it, it's like
20.
Man, 18 or 19.
I want to say like 22-ish.
22-ish?
Somewhere in that pocket. And I remember the last time I saw my dad because it was in a very weird circumstance. So we were doing Thanksgiving at my grandmother's house before she had passed away years ago.
Condolences.
Yeah, appreciate that. And all of a sudden, there's a knock at the door. And, you know, we don't really, like, when we go to my grandmother's house, by the way, you know, we don't really, I mean, back in that day, we didn't knock. I mean, don't get me wrong. Grandma's house was in Lemur Park, and we didn't knock. So let me tell you. Now, anybody who knows
I can relate on that.
No, anybody knows about Lemur Park is normally the opposite. You gotta go through gate after door after gate to get into somebody's house because it's the real deal out in Lemur Park, California. Don't get it wrong. But
don't get it twisted.
Our house wasn't like that. When we all pulled up, once the first person pulled up to Grandmommy's house, that door stayed open until everybody pulled up. When we pulled up, maybe like at that time we were pulling up 30, 35 people deep for the family because everybody used to pull up.
Yeah.
But we got to knock at the door. We in the back, you know, me, my sister, my mom, you know, we just chilling in the back, didn't think nothing of it. My uncle comes through and say, "Cam, your dad's at the door." He didn't tell my mom. He didn't tell my sister. He told me.
So unannounced popped up.
Yeah, it was just out of nowhere.
How old were you?
I was about like 20. I want to say like 22.
So when you were 20, okay.
Yeah, I was old enough to have that conversation, but I wasn't prepared to have my pops just.
So he just
pulled up,
sought you out specifically.
No, he was really coming out, you know, to see me and my sister, of course. But it was just the manner in which it happened. It was just like, completely
out of the blue.
Like out of the blue, out of nowhere, because you're not thinking nothing of it. Now, it was crazy. We sat down, we talked, and and I remember we went through it was a whole big old thing. Because we had, I remember my mom was like, basically isolated us in one of the bedrooms. Because everybody, get out the bedroom. Get out the bedroom. So me and my mom was just talking. The first thing my mom said was, do you really want to talk to your dad? Yes or no? Yeah. I talk to my dad. I don't have no problem. I have no problem talking with my dad.
No bad.
He asked my sister the same, my mom asked my sister the same thing. You want to talk to your dad? And she was kind of unsure, but she said yes if I would go. And so we did. So we sat, we ran around the corner, sat in the car, and we talked with our dad for a little bit because he wanted to see us and talk. And so, mom's allowed this to happen. Now, that was the last, we had a little conversation, and he was just trying to get everything up to speed as far as graduating high school and all that stuff. And that was pretty much the end of it. Now, I say that to kind of backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
You said your dad was a hood dude. You said your dad was in jail. My dad was your perennial crack addict. I mean, when he did drugs, and he did crack. And I knew this without a shadow of a doubt because even when my mom and my dad was, living with each other, when I was 4 or 5 years old, I know what the little crack bottle looked like. You had a clear one. It was a double hoop, had the little crack thing at the top. And light it at the bottom, and it wasn't like one of the little ones. It was a pretty tall one that's in that bathroom.
We know about this.
And the crazy thing is, I remember it vividly because I was the only in the bottom bathroom. That was the only thing that was sitting there, and I remember just saying, I remember my dad always saying, "Don't touch this." I didn't know what it was.
I thought you were going to say, don't touch it.
No. But he said, don't touch it. No, don't touch it. Don't drop it. Don't do anything. It was crazy. It was crazy because I didn't know what it was. I didn't care.
Hands out the room.
As a kid, I didn't know what it was. I didn't care. He was a perennial crack addict. One of the things about my dad, it's crazy that I remember, I know y'all remember, oh, my dad, if your dad was a crack addict, he must have been bad. Yeah, he did some bad stuff. My mom, to this day, have a gash over her eye from them getting into a fight because they were arguing so bad that they were throwing stuff at each other. And my dad hit my mom with a ceramic, not a plastic plate, them heavy ceramic plates.
Ooh, them heavy.
Hit her across the face. We had to rush her to the hospital.
Don't they put those in bulletproof vests?
Huh?
Don't they put ceramic in bulletproof vests?
Yes. Yes, ceramic heavy, in the hood we call it China. And the only reason why we call it China because on the back of it is saying, man, China's so terrible, ain't it? It is so terrible. But
hood days.
My dad hit my mom with a plate across her eye and then slammed her face across the table. I remember this clearly because I'm literally in the hallway when this is happening. So I remember all the bad stuff. But on the flip side of the coin, I remember the good stuff. Here's one thing that if y'all think what's one thing that my dad did that stuck with me that was kind of a weird but good thing. You want to know the one thing it was? Being a gamer. I know that's the weirdest thing in the world, but I will tell y'all this. Me playing video games is like my one connection to my dad. Not because he would play with me, it's because that's what he would always buy. My dad inadvertently grew me to be the gamer that I am today. Only that board games, if you ever want to know why am I so good? Because my dad grew me to be good. You want to know why I'm good at chess? Because my dad made sure I was good at chess.
Well, I guess Capcom should write your dad a thank you letter.
Yeah, there's a lot of people should write me. But I say that because it's I always had that people think it's always bad. But there's always certain nuggets of good thing that was in there. So I relate to you, Paul.
Only good thing I can say, I'm not going to say only good thing about my dad. Only good thing I can say for me is when my dad come pick me up. I think that's the only thing, even when years go by, when they say, hey, you want to come with me? Cool.
Right, but see,
So I think that for me, that was the only good thing of my fond memory of my dad. Just when he did come pick me up, even years go by. I think only gift I ever got from him was him buying me a bicycle as a kid.
I didn't care about.
But I didn't care about. I just care about. I want my dad. I want my dad. Where's my dad?
You know what the crazy thing is? And I know over the years, I know people think like if let me ask, I know that you kind of already, because your dad's kind of in your life already, so I'm more opposed to you, Paul.
Go for it.
If your dad was in your life,
Mm-hmm.
do you think the path of your life changes that dramatically?
To a degree, no.
Why?
Because I already know where my standard point was going to be as I progressed all my adult years at the time, even at a young age. Because, like I told you guys this before in the past, my grandmother was everything to me, and God rest her soul. And one thing she always taught me as a kid and growing up is always be prepared who's there and who's not there. So for me, I knew that in time, as I got older, who's real and who's not real, if that makes sense.
I got a different question. I'm gonna go back to you. I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna make that thought for a second. I'm gonna go back to you because I thought of something else and jump in, Vic, on this one too. When you were younger with your dad, especially when your dad first got out of jail, did your mom try to block the interaction that you had with your dad?
No, not at all.
Because of their relationship or whatever it was that she was or your parents.
She
took me to visit him, so that kind of told you where that was.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking the question. I know certain.
I can answer that question. Yes and no, but on the safety wise, yes, because my mom didn't want me around certain people that he used to be around, and as a kid, I used to get so mad at that. But then as me growing up and started learning more and started seeing it for myself, I understood what she did, why she didn't want me in that certain standpoints. Because I never told you, like my father's mother, my grandmother on my father's side, God rest her soul, she was a crack addict. And there was times, she would want me to go be with her, and my mom wouldn't let me go because, her state of mind and was, her lifestyle and stuff like that. So that part I get why my mom didn't want me at that stage. And then my father was always running around with different women, this and that and the other. So my mom didn't want me to be around all that craziness and stuff like that. So that part I always give, I always thank for that.
So
go for it.
I'm gonna do two different questions, but first one's gonna be this.
Okay.
Is there a difference between a dad and a father?
Okay. Who wants to go?
You go first on this one.
So the difference between a dad and a father, and we'll just throw in there daddy as well.
Yeah.
So the difference between that is just essentially the level of connection. Pretty much. Father is probably the most formal one of them all. Well, it is the most formal one of it all. And because it's so formal, there's usually this form of distance between it. Now, typically there are some dads out there who like to be called father by their children because of the sign of respect and whatnot, right? And I actually agree with the fact that, fathers are to be fathers to their children first and friends way down at the list. They don't need friends, they need a parent figure, and that's what you're to be above all things. But that doesn't mean it has to be a completely cold relationship. If your kids are scared to call you dad or daddy, right, especially a little girl, that's a sign of you're probably a little too distant from your kids, because they're supposed to be able to come to you for anything, right? And they can't when you got this barrier called father in front of them, towards like he's just the father. He's all he does is he gives out chores and then he leaves you alone, and if necessary, he'll discipline you. That's not the healthiest form of a dad, right? You want to be the perfect balance, aka a dad, right? If your child can come to you when they're scared, happy, and everything, that's what you want because you are their custodian. Pretty much, you're to take care of them, right? Designated by the Lord, He made you a father. You're to take care of that child, right? You're supposed to be close with him. After all, how can you not be close with the blood of your blood? You know? And what I mean by that is like he literally is a piece of you walking around. You're going to want to be close with him. Every son and every father, or just every father and children, those are literal little pieces of you walking around. This is one of the things I hate about modern society, is that this wonderful, beautiful connection, right? The beautifulness of just being a parent, of marriage and all that, is destroyed, you know, because they don't see it that anymore. You know. Now, obviously, you shouldn't be a daddy in the sense of where, you know, daddy, you know, because you spoil them.
Shut up.
Right? You don't want to...
No, I'm not. No, I
Shut up. We don't go there in a minute. Shut up. Go ahead. Keep going.
You know, you don't want to spoil your kids, because spoiling your kids is just as bad as being too strict.
That's a fact.
It is true.
You know, when you spoil your children, I mean, when have you ever heard of anything good being spoiled? You know what happens is things that are spoiled, they get thrown away, right? And that's what happened to your kids with society when they come up spoiled. They get thrown out of it because they can't be a part of it. You know, and same thing with a strict father. Sure, they can operate just fine, but they can't form any deep connections, or they fail to, because they've grown up around someone that's so distant from them. Who is that? That's my father. Well, what's he like? I don't know. You know, what does he do on the spare time? I don't know. You know, do you guys do anything together? No. You know, versus that's my daddy. He buys me everything. You know, he does everything for me.
You just said I thought you was...
You know, versus like, you know, that's my daddy. He does everything for me. He bought me my first car. He buys me new clothes every day. We go to the ice cream shop every Friday. It's so good. He don't care I get F's. He loves me all the same. That's terrible. You need to be a dad. And the dad is the perfect in-between of the two. Strict enough to be a father, but loving enough to be a daddy. You know, it's not an easy balance. It's very hard, especially when there's fathers out there who just love to spoil their kids, and I get it. That's your child. You're going to want to hold them close, and you're just going to want to spoil them, but you can't, right? Not only for their sake, but for your sake as well. Because honestly, when you have children who grow up who can't operate, they can't take care of you or help you or be there for you, because they're still going to rely on you taking care of them well into their 20s and maybe even 30s. It's not easy being a dad. It's extremely hard. It's not easy at all, but it's the best job you can ever have. Being a parent is literally the best job. It's better than any job you could ever have in the world. You could be the biggest CEO, you can be the president for all I care, but none of those even come close to being an actual dad, a biological dad, or even a stepdad. Just raising a life and taking them the way that they should be, because that has eternal consequences for how that life is raised. Versus like, oh, well, if the company goes under, oh, well, you know, that's vanity. Versus this is a human life that come into existence because of a beautiful union between a mother and a father. That's the proof of that relationship. And if you don't pretend that, like, that's the most important job in the world, because it is, you've completely missed the point, right? And the other thing is just, it's just so sad that fatherhood has been stripped of its nobility, of its severe need, right? You know, people for the longest time have always dumbed down dads in media, and what I mean by that is you know, dad is always seen as like he's kind of the idiot who just so happened to get with a really smart woman, right? You know, he's just a bumbling fool. He works 9 to 5. He comes home, he drinks beer, watch sports, go to bed. That's all he does, right? You know, it just really downplays the role of a dad, right? When a dad is just was one of the cornerstones of any civilization, because he's right there with the mother. Parenting in general is such an important job because it's literally what makes or breaks societies.
Now, let me.
Well, it's perfectly said.
No. All of which. All of which are on point.
Everything you just said is truly said.
Yeah, all of which are on point. All of which is good. Here's how we're going to tag on to that, because you made a good point. You said fatherhood is being downplayed, or is being like looked at as mocked, or looked at as lesser than.
No, well, hold on. I can relate to that, because you got to think about it. I mean, look in the history right now. different holidays. You know, Father's Day is at the bottom of the list on every other holiday. Like, because you can think about it. Mother's Day, it gets celebrated like craziness.
You want to? Well, that's not the direction I was going.
I'm just using that for example. But Father's Day, like, who really like? Do you see a lot of people get really, really excited for Father's Day?
I'll answer that question. Well, I'll answer that question, but that's not the direction I was going to go. But I'll answer that question. Sorry. But to answer your question in simple short, most fathers, like your real ones,
you don't care about that. Yeah, I know.
You want to know why? Because we don't need a day of accolade. Meaning that most real dads, we don't need to be like, well, y'all need to take me out. Y'all need to give me something. Y'all need to do this. Most dads, here's the thing. Because you want to know why? I'm going to keep talking. No. Because y'all haven't really asked me the question yet. And I've been waiting for y'all to ask me this the whole time. Because
he's a dad.
I know he's a dad, but
exactly. How does it feel to be a dad?
I was saying that.
But we'll go there later. But the reason why most dads don't care about Father's Day, why you think Father's Day is low? Because most dads don't. With most real dads, we know two things to be true. The first part of that is that we don't put an onus on it because, like, well, if we do something cool, if we don't cool, you know, the best thing about on Father's Day to be is a day to chill and rest and go hang out and do that stuff.
Well, kick your feet up.
Here's the other thing we know to be true. 9 times out of 10, Father's Day, that money and all that stuff is coming out of our own pocket anyway. So we just pay for our own stuff anyway. So we don't care. I'll just do that. But it's just one of those things that we just don't care.
Can I say something real quick before you say something? Go ahead. So
that's not the direction I was going. That's not the direction I was going. I had a different point.
You said something that made a good point, though, Victor. There is a difference between a dad and a father. So a dad is just a dad. You go like, oh, when you go out the place, you go hang out. Hey, Dad, let's go play ball. Okay, cool, son. Okay, cool, daughter. Or is that your dad? Yeah. And then 9 out of 10, your friends start calling your dad, because I've done that before. But a father, to me, in my personal opinion, is a representative wise. Meaning this, if you go, like say for instance, you and your son.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah, let's say for instance, you and your son, right? Y'all together, y'all go take a picture. He representing you.
Of course he is.
So I always thought the definition of a father is somebody who you represent. Like if I'm finna go out, like if I'm finna go achieve something, I got my father on my side. I represent my father because he's been there for me from the ups and downs. So now, I'm not just necessarily on that part, but on a standpoint. Like if I'm finna bring my appearance, I want my appearance to bring the best out of me as my father is. If that makes sense.
I get what you're saying, but your father is not your father by virtue of the title that's
yeah. That's
your
what I'm
father
saying.
Is your father because he literally birthed you into life, and like Vic said, you are ultimately a piece of him. Like no matter what the situation is. My dad is my dad, and I am 50% my dad.
And that's what I'm saying. Like for me, even though me and my dad don't have a relationship, I know a part of him is in me.
Right, of course, because no matter what.
And I'm not gonna. I hate to admit that, or I'm not.
By default, I'm gonna keep it tall with you. There's a lot of things that, even though I ain't seen my dad in years and stuff, I'm gonna keep it tall with you. There's a lot of things that you do that your mom will probably clearly say. That reminds me of your dad.
She never said that to me, but she knows it because a part, like,
give you the look.
Not necessarily, but I know a little bit of my short temper comes not short temper wise, but bad intentions comes from my father.
No. You want to know why? Because as their relationship separated.
Yeah.
They just need to stop talking about your dad in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when they first were together, when they first got separated, that was probably the running conversation piece. You just probably don't remember it because she probably was saying this over that reminds me of your dad. That reminds me of your dad. All the time. And it's crazy.
You know what? Honestly, and I can say this honestly, my mom never said you act just like your father. She never. No, she never, like, even when she on a worst day, if I done something real bad as a kid or a teenager years, or now she never say, and I can tell my grandmother recipe, she never say you act just like your father.
Right, because certain times they may not say it directly to you. That you was a conversation piece. She may not have said it directly to you.
I mean,
because she might have said it to
somebody else.
She might have said it to her sister. Mm-hmm. She might have said it to one of your uncles. I'm pretty sure that was a conversation piece. There's a lot of times they don't like doing that because it brings up old wounds. But it goes back to the point I was going to originally make originally before. You said fatherhood is not being held in high regard, but part of that is just what we just talked about. The separation of, like, the high divorce rate and the high separations between the mom and dad in that instance causes that division. Because a lot of times what happens is, let's say that, you know, your mom and dad was married when they first were together and then they get separated. Mm-hmm. A lot of times the kid goes with the mom. And if it was a bad breakup, and a lot of the times that they are, mm-hmm. it's always going to be bad mouth the dad no matter what. Even if it wasn't a bad mouth situation, let's say you broke up amicably, a lot of times you will get well, your dad was so much a bad person. A lot of times they won't tell you this directly. They'll tell you these things very indirectly until you get old enough to understand it, then they start telling you this directly. But the reason why fatherhood is not held in high regard is because a lot of times the kids go with the mom and then they purposely block out the dad. You get what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
A lot of times it's not because that the dad is a bad dad or the dad doesn't want to be there.
He's literally blocked by the courts.
Sometimes they're blocked by the courts, and sometimes they're literally blocked by the mom because the mom is because they're so hurt because of the breakup that they purposely try to shoot the dad away. Or they'll put some ungodly, like, bounty on the kid's head. What I mean by bounty, they put a big number on the kid's head, meaning that, well, the only way you can see your kid is if you bring me $1,000, some Gucci slippers, and something for the kid.
Which is
no. But have you heard this in the hood, right? I mean, we talk. Yeah. You heard this, right? And they purposely try to block the kid. They purposely try to block the kid. Well, the kid needs this, the kid needs that.
I don't care what you're
but they block the dad. It's like, okay, and a lot of times the dad be like, yeah, I'll get the kid something. But they're so distraught. And let's say that the girl's in another relationship. Let's say the guy's in another relationship.
Ooh, I see that.
No, but they're constantly in this tug of war, and it separates the dad from being a dad.
So what you're talking about, this is a very...
And I know it took it in a slight direction.
No.
It goes into the up and rise of how dads are being viewed.
It's the root of a much deeper issue, as where this is not spontaneous. This has been gradually happening over the past decades. Due to the lack of, surprise, actual fatherhood being a thing. The statistics are there. Those who are raised by single mothers tend to do just worse in life. That's just an actual study that's been performed. They either wind up in prison, they either resort to violence and thievery. They don't turn out that well. Most children raised by a single mother. Not all single mothers. That's not what you heard me say, but I did say most. Mm-hmm. And that's just what the statistics say. You know, like I said earlier, the role of the fathers has been destroyed in a way for a very long time, and we're seeing the side effect of it. Society nowadays is the way it is because it lacks real fathers.
Correct.
It lacks proper fathers. Fathers, like I was talking about earlier, provide discipline, right? Discipline is so crucial. Right, but sadly nowadays it's labeled as child abuse. But it's not. It's discipline. The worst thing you can do. What's real child abuse is not disciplining your kids. Because you let them grow up that way. They're going to be at such a massive disadvantage in life that they're just going to be so lost, right? They're not going to know how to take care of themselves. They're not going to know how to fend for themselves, and they're not going to know how to defend themselves, right? They're just going to be vulnerable. They're going to be like a turtle on their back, just waiting for something along to just kill them, right? I mean, but that's just what happens with the lack of a father. You know, when you don't discipline your kids, you don't teach your kids. Fathers are so vital and so crucial. There's a reason the system is the way it is for a reason. But when you take out a crucial piece, right, father or mother, both are needed, right? I'm not saying you can have one without the other. You need both. It's designed that way for a reason. There's a reason kids don't come into existence without both being in a party.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it's designed for both to be there.
Right.
Right. But what I am saying is just everything you're seeing now is just a result of a lack of real fatherhood. Right. A vast majority of this is. Don't get me wrong, a good portion of it has to do with corruption in the government, but that's a whole different podcast. But I'm talking about on a society level.
Yeah, no, a lot of it, you're right. A lot of it has to do with literally you dealing with this separation, and you're obviously going to be favoring one person over the other because there's a separation between the two. A lot of the reason why you don't see your dad is because you went with your mom. But let's say that you didn't go with your mom. Let's say your dad said, I'm taking you, pursue the happiness style.
Good goddamn movie.
No, but I'm just saying, let's say that happened.
Uh-huh.
That easily could have been the case. You don't know. I mean, you said, yeah, your dad's a hood dude. But let's say that you were there. You don't think that he would have potentially done? I'm pretty sure he would have. Because he knew he had a life to look after. Now, whether he wanted to do that or not, that's a two different conversation pieces.
I'm not going to sit here and lie on that, Cam and Vic. Honestly, I wouldn't know what would have happened if I did, or if I was with my dad, or living with my dad.
Well,
it'd have been different. It'd have been a different, story. Because
you ain't gonna sit here and reminisce. Oh, it would have been so much better.
No, yeah, but I never go back. No, this is not a thing of going back. This is just one of those
hypothetical.
It's like one of those.
I mean,
you could have easily went with your dad.
Damn, this reminds me of that movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Get Even with Dad.
Right. But here's where it's like, and I say that to say this. So you don't necessarily have to answer because I can't answer this one for you.
Oh, I answer it.
But for me, I had that choice. Most people don't get that choice of who to choose to go with, your mom or your dad. I could tell you exactly when, where, and the circumstance in which I had that choice. I'll replay it for you real fast.
Go for it.
I was 10 years old. My sister was 5. My mom and my dad both worked at Kaiser out in Bellflower. So
that's where I was born at.
Yeah. So
right around the corner.
Yeah. So the old school, the old Bellflower, not the county one, the old Bellflower, the old building. Yeah, the old building.
Born and
raised.
So
when my mom and dad were separating, we pulled up in the car. We sat in the car, and my mom had asked me. She said, your sister is going to go with me, because she was only 5. She wasn't old enough to make that decision. Mm-hmm. But my mom put it in my hands at a 10-year-old to say, who you want to go with? You want to go with your dad, or you want to go with me?
She gave you obligation.
She gave me
the responsibility.
She gave me the decision at a 10-year-old because apparently enough, I was mature enough to actually make that decision. I didn't think I was at no 10-year-old, but that's a tough decision for a 10-year-old to make, to choose your dad or choose your mom, no matter what circumstances. But here's the one thing that I learned from my dad. My dad said a couple of things that were like they're quotables if you so choose. One, you don't have to be the best, but you have to be one of the best. Quotable. 6 in my head from now to the day that I die.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this is my same crackhead dad who said this, but he said this. Here's the other thing that was equally as important as that statement. Always look out for your sister. Those are the 2 things that my dad taught me more so than anything else that stuck. I don't have to be the best, I have to be one of the best. Meaning that even my dad knew that I was good at what I did, but he knew that, yeah, there are always going to be people who's going to be better. And I knew that in life even growing up, early on. But he said, look, you don't have to be the best, just be one of them. Just be in that top tier bracket, but more importantly,
be on the roster.
Yeah, but more importantly, take care of your sister. So when I had to choose, my thought process was literally what my dad said. Take care of your sister. So I went with my mom to make sure my sister was cool.
I think one of the things I did get from my dad or learn from my dad, he always said, know how to drive. Even at a young age, he used to say, hey, you driving. I'm like, I'm only damn near 6. Why am I driving? He always said, and he kept it 100, and he didn't lie to me. He said, I'm at a level, I'm not always going to be there. So I want you to learn how to do this.
Right. And you know what's crazy?
And you know what? And that's one thing I do have a fine memory of my dad, is him always throwing me behind the wheel. Say, you need to learn how to drive.
Right. I remember my dad whipping me around.
And I think those were one of the final moments of my life with my dad is driving. Because even then, I was taking somebody's car at a young age.
Right.
Taking my mom's car.
But I see that the same way though. Because see, now that you're actually thinking about this now.
Yeah. I mean, no, I know. I have the answer. I just didn't.
No, I got you. But when you said your dad was just this, he wasn't. He was, even without him being there on the day-to-day, your dad was still impactful. Even in small doses. You still remember, make sure you always have a whip. Make sure you drive around. That's your dad's thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily your mama who taught you that. Your dad taught you that.
Yeah.
Now, since your dad wasn't there the whole way through, who was your father figure in your life? Or figures?
No.
I have one. Who was your father? Who was the ones that you'd be like, these are the father figures in my life?
For me, it was only 2. And I'll say this right here, right now. My Uncle Mandel and my Uncle Vincent. And I told you guys this story. My Uncle Mandel, he gave me my first real, I'm talking about real ass whipping. I did something at school or something, I can't remember, but my mom told him the next morning, he got my ass. And he told me why, and he set me down, and it's funny, I just talked to him last week, and I tell this story all the time, because that particularly ass whipping he gave me, and I thank him, it kept me out of the penitentiary.
Uh-huh.
And damn, I'm gonna get emotional by saying this, but if he didn't throw that impact or didn't do that for me, who knows where I might be right now? I might be dead right now, or I might be doing time in jail. You get what
you're saying.
So for him, I always thank you for that. Now my Uncle Vincent was more, not just my uncle, he was more of my father, because he was the one that when he came home from prison, he pulled me by my collar and took me under his wing, because at the time I didn't have a positive role model in my life. It was just me, my mom, my brother, God rest my brother's soul, and whoever came in and out of our lives. He was the one who helped me get my driver's license. He's the one who taught me my surroundings, where to go, where not to go, what to say, what not to say. And I told you guys this story 1,000 times. So those 2 right there.
I got you. So who was your father figure in your life?
My dad.
Your dad. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. You know who was the father figure in my life? Just my dad. You know my uncle? They're my uncles.
Yeah.
My grandfather? It's just my grandfather. My, the leadership, all the guys when I was, all like the leadership in the church and stuff. Yeah. They were just the guys in the church.
I mean, my grandfather was my
because
grandfather.
I never put them in that position to be, that's what my father should be like. No, my dad.
And I agree with you on that.
Is my dad. And my uncle was my uncle. My church leadership was my church leadership. My older OGs were the older OGs. They were not. And I never said they were my father figure.
And I can relate to that, Karen, because I even tell people to this day, I never once asked them to do what they did for me for that.
No,
they didn't have to do
no,
that.
it had nothing to do with that. I never put them in that pedestal to say that's their spot. Because the only spot that's for my dad is my dad.
And which it should be.
No, but it would never. Nobody else will ever be in that spot because I
get what
always.
you're saying.
No, I would because even
I understand what he's saying.
Because every.
But what I'm saying is that I never asked or even put anybody. And I relate with cancer. I never put my uncles or anybody in general in that position for me. They chose to.
Let me restate this again. So let me make sure you understand this real quick. So I learned how to walk with my head up because of my Sunday school teacher Ivory, who so happens to be my stepfather.
Okay.
I learned
Wait. His name's Ivory?
Yes.
Unique.
I
I
learned
know a couple guys named Ivory.
Ivory?
Yeah.
I learned
It's weird, but yeah.
Yes. I learned a lot of my musicality from my saxophone instructor Q, who my son is named after. I learned a lot of these things from a lot of different people, but I never put my dad in a different position than what he was. And I never put Ivory in my dad's spot. Even though Ivory is my stepfather, he's not in my dad's spot. He is my stepfather.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
But he's not like my dad. That spot.
I can relate. I mean, even my former stepfather.
I learned from them, and I respect every single adult figure that came into my life who had impact in my life. I respect all of them. But I respect them individually, but there will never be that's my father figure. That's the one that I look up to. No, I respected all of them. I respected my pastor Billy. I respected, my other pastors who I interacted with. I respected a lot of the people who impacted my life. I respect Ivy, except for some of the, that's a different conversation. I'll get to discuss that later. But I respected them for the impact that they put not just on my life, but on my sister's life. I know, I got it.
I get what you said.
But they're not in that position. The only person who's in that position of father is my biological dad and God.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Do you understand? Do you understand?
I feel where you coming from, brother. I really do.
Nobody else, because even though you're going to learn a lot from me, and you be like, I'm going to give you a lot of fatherly type conversations, I'm still not your dad. Yeah. I'm still your big OG.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. But you shouldn't put me in the regard of, I wish my dad would have taught me this. No, you're just going to get that information through people like me.
Yeah.
But you're getting it just from the OG's perspective. You know who refers to me as dad? My two.
Your two.
They're supposed to refer to me as dad. And no matter, I don't see my kids every single day. I holler at them, as much as I can, but I know that they got their life that they're doing. But I know we did enough to raise them right. But the one thing that I can tell you about being a father and fatherhood, and when our boys get to that point, y'all will definitely understand this, is that, even though the kid, me and their mom separated, and there was a lot of back and forth, it wasn't a perfect progress to get to the point where we are now. But we got there. Yeah, I know what it's like to get isolated out from the kids because I got purposely pushed out for a period of time. But I was like, look, those are still my two kids.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to have impact in there no matter what. And financially, I made sure that they took care. So
that's the difference between Damn.
No, let me try this one. Let me try this one more time.
That's real father stuff.
Just because my responsibility to my kids, I wasn't able to go to every single event that they did, but I did make the major stuff.
Yeah.
When my son was like going through a lot of things happening at his school, I pulled up. You know what I got the call. They said, Cam, pull up, go talk to your son. Got it. Say no more. No matter what my situation was, when I didn't have nothing, and I mean nothing. I mean, I was on the streets with nothing to my name. I still made sure the kids were taken care of. I still pulled up with nothing to my name. I still made sure that during Christmas, at that time, I still got them gifts. Why? Because those are my two.
Your kids.
You know, so my responsibility for them, which goes beyond just the dictating to them and stuff, my responsibility was to make sure that their life and lifestyle was as easy as I could make it possible and be able to teach them in the process that even in separation, it can still work.
And shout out to all the real fathers out there on that one
And
too. Because what he's saying is truly understandable, because a lot of and I say this because a lot of real fathers don't get that credit, because even they don't need that credit, even if they only got 10 cents to their name, they'll still make sure that they kids eat before them.
Right.
And I so much respect for
I
that.
work my job to this day to make sure they straight.
Yeah.
It goes beyond me.
Yeah.
Remember I tell you this every podcast. It's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And part of that bigger than me is it's got to be bigger than me, so it's got to be for them.
Well, just to say, like, you know, that's one of the things is this is one of the reasons that there's not a lot of real fathers out there is that you fail to realize is the minute you are a father, guess what? You're no longer living for you.
Exactly. I mean, I felt up and I say this right now. When I was married, when she had her daughter, I knew that it was not just her, it was this one too. So I knew if I'm going to be married to her, I'm going to have to be with this one too. Yeah. And it was, and I swear to God, it was the most beautiful feeling that ever happened to me in my life, because it changed. Like, I swear to God, and I tell you guys this: when I was with this little girl, it changed me. Not just for me being her stepfather, just me having a positive influence for her. You know, I don't get to see her very often, but, you know, I love her to death. And when she was like you said, when she got sick, when, you know, my wife at the time said, hey, you know, she's sick, can you take her? Say no more. I'm pulling up. I got you. I'm going to go drop her to the hospital. I'll rush you to the hospital. When she needs the car.
If something happens to my son right now, no matter what part of
the world, and I tell my ex this: is anything, regardless of me and you not together anymore, if anything you say, hey, my daughter, say less. I'm there. I'm popping up. It's not just because she's not my real child. It's because you get what I'm saying.
No.
Oh, hold on.
Even in a step kid situation, the same thing kind of applies. But that's why I said, for me, it was like, I knew that I had to work and be strong and go through that. Even when I didn't have it, was to make sure that they were cool. Yeah. So if that means sometimes that doesn't always have to be in a money situation. Sometimes, like I just said, my son was going through something at school. Just a simple pull-up.
Yeah.
My daughter needed something. Hey, Dad, pull up to graduation. I'm there. You don't have to ask question, but I'm there.
I just want to say, you know how messed up it is, the fact that stepchild is a thing where it's just child. There's no.
For me, I always tell people this because I get asked the question about, you know, how's your stepdaughter? I'm like, my daughter's fine. Yeah. And I tell people this all that. Even when we're not together, she always will still be my daughter no matter what.
But you see what I mean? The fact that, you know.
I'll say that me taking my last breath, that's always gonna be my baby. No matter what. Even if I'm not around her, that's always gonna be my baby.
The problem was, you know, is that, and I know from a lot of fathers, it's like, you know, you're not just, you know, you're battling for your kids, but you're battling.
And to say that, Vic, I never once did say, oh, that's my stepdaughter. That's my daughter.
Because that one word is putting more distance than you can imagine.
I never put her in that position to say, or I never, what's the word I'm looking for?
No, you never referred to her as that.
I got you. Yeah, thank you. Let's just say, hey, when somebody asks, oh, who's this? That's my daughter.
Exactly. But see, that's the thing. It's like you gotta understand it. Once you understand that it's bigger than just
me.
You.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is, and I know that you know a lot of guys, and I know a lot of dads go through this. They fight this constant uphill battle. Mm-hmm. It's a battle because it's like you're trying to battle for time with your kids, and the more distance you have from your kids, the less conversations you're able to have. So you got to make sure every single conversation is meaningful. So that's how it is with my kids.
I mean,
make sure
even now, I wish we could see each other,
right? So,
but you know, under different circumstances, she knows I'm always gonna love her no matter what. Mm-hmm. If she called me right now out of the blue and said, "Hey, I'm stuck somewhere," say less. I'm pulling up.
Right, but see, that's the thing. But see, the thing is that.
And that's that's the difference between fathers and real fathers.
Well, it's the difference between, it's like they said, it goes back to what Vic said. It's the difference between dads and fathers. Because, you know, in that dad form, you got to be a little bit of everything. So the one thing I have with my son,
I can say that because I remember it was a time one day I had dropped them off somewhere. And I was getting ready to leave, and she broke down crying because she did not want me to leave. Sometimes, you know, that touched my heart because it's like, you know, it's just not just because of the emotional part, it's just the impact you give on a child.
But see, and the one thing and it's crazy because the one thing that
not just the impact, the quality, the time on.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's crazy because you think that, well, your dad doesn't influence me. You know, one thing I told my son. Always look out for your sister. You know what he does?
He looks out for his sister.
All the time. Without fail. There ain't nothing that happened to my daughter's silhouette that he ain't on top of. Even if he doesn't, even if I don't know it, he know it. And that's even more important. It's like, I don't have to know every single thing. As long as I know that you know, I'm good.
I mean, you want to know there's a few things out in this world that will absolutely break a man. And I mean, just bring him to tears. And one of those few things is just hearing his kids say, "I love you, Dad."
Yep.
That just brings a man down to his knees in tears because that's all they want, you know. Fathers are pouring out their whole lives to take care of these kids. And just to hear the simple words, "I love you."
I can relate to that.
My kids don't even say that. One of the craziest things that happened to me is that Father's Day last year, I'm sitting, chilling. Me and my mom, my sister was going out to go eat dinner or whatever. Breakfast. No. We was going to eat breakfast.
Denny's.
We went to Denny's. Then all of a sudden, my son pulls up out of nowhere.
I think you called me that day. You called me that day.
My son's in the. I was like, wait.
Yeah. He said, hey. I said, what's wrong, Karen? He said, you know, my son just pulled up on me out of the blue. He didn't give me no phone call. He didn't tell nobody to touch it down.
Man, it was like,
but it wasn't the back. He was excited.
No, I was like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't take no time off.
I couldn't go. If I didn't know you was gonna pull up, I could take some time off. We could have went here, this and that.
We could have done anything you wanted to do.
I remember you saying that.
And I was like, dog. And the only reason, and here's the kicker. And somebody would ask the question, well, if your son pulled up, you didn't take no time off, you didn't call off? No. You want to know why? And it goes into a bigger principle. Because I knew that it was more important for me to make sure that I was still making the money to ensure that their lifestyle is maintained and for me to take that time out. For him to come see me in school. You know what happened when he came out the next time? We hung out the next time.
You know what? I could not wait till
First of all, my son and daughter's pulling up. Don't worry. Don't y'all worry. Podcast land. They are definitely pulling up. They've been asking for to come on anyway, so don't you worry.
I don't care. I'm putting up his daughter's job at Knox. We're gonna get on the
She don't work at Knox anymore. She don't work at Knox. She got a new gig.
I didn't know about this.
I haven't told y'all. We haven't told y'all. No, my daughter changed jobs, you know. So first of all, y'all for people on podcast, man. She worked at Six Flags. You know we got at Six Flags. She the upgrade from Knox to Disney. I'm gonna keep it tall. That's the only upgrade for them.
I actually prefer Knox over Disney.
I prefer Knox over Disney
because it's down the street, dude.
I know, but Disney. You
know what? That's another.
But that's a different.
That's a whole different episode.
Because I'm gonna talk about that too. But I think that we might. episode 57.
But my daughter did change jobs, by the way. But she is doing good in school, so she's going through her nursing program, so she's doing good. My son's
we need more nurses out there.
My son's in the Marines. He's doing his thug dizzle out there, boy. Living life and doing very well.
Look, your uncle. I'm gonna get older. I might need you. Like, say less. I got you.
But my kids is doing real cool.
That's good. That's good.
So I mean, and for
shout out to your sons too out there.
And so for me, the biggest thing for me is to see them do their thing. To see my daughter in school,
and what's so funny?
My son in the Marine. My son does what I do. He has a music group, even though it's not necessarily hip hop per se. He has his own music group. He does his thing. He literally does what I would normally do.
And I'll give you credit what you just said, because one of my good buddies I was mentioning, because his I asked him this question: what's the greatest benefit of you being a father? And he said, for me, it's just to see the progress and progression on my kids as they grow. He said the day he saw his daughter graduate out of high school lets him know that he did a job well done.
One of the biggest.
And I think that's one of the good things of a father is to see the progress as their kids grow and development.
No, it's to see their success.
It's success.
Every parent will want, and I know when y'all become parents, y'all will want the same thing. To see your kids do better than you. That's really what you want to. So people be like, well, Cam, you've been fairly successful. Yes. But my kids are just as good, and they're probably on a trajectory to be more successful than me. Why? Because I instilled as much as I can. Their mom instilled as much as they can. Other people instilled as much as they can, so they put them in a position for success. Yeah. I'm not saying that I'm the sole person who did that. Yeah.
And I say that
of those
because,
who did that.
And I said, like, if I don't even have kids of my own right now, and like if I leave this earth right now, my dog gets everything of mine.
Right, but
so it's just like
it's not even the fact of money.
Money wise.
Even if it didn't care, they don't care about money. What they care about is that I care about their success, about them growing, about them experiencing life. To see my son, to have him tell me stories about, wow, this is what happened when I was in Sweden. This is what happened when I was in Italy. This is what happened when I was in Norway.
Yeah,
he was in
Sweden?
Yeah, he was.
I'm jealous.
He had a chance. That's Marine life.
Yeah.
But he has a chance to come back and tell me the stories. What I do, the crazy thing is, a lot of these hood people though will tell you, well, my son is in the streets like I am. They're doing this, they're doing that. They don't really sound proud. There's certain ones who are proud of that stuff, but 90% of them ain't proud of that. They don't want them in that life because they want their life to be better than what they were. They wasn't, a lot of people don't choose, the gang life, the street life, the drug life. They don't choose that because of
I'm sure you guys heard this phrase before. I didn't choose the street chose me.
Right.
Yeah.
But as a parent, you don't want your kids to be in the streets like that. You want your kids to be in school.
I wish people would hear that more. Right now, especially some of these.
No, because you want to know why? Because because everybody's trying to be Ja Morant. Sorry, side note, real fast. Ja Morant, up there waving a gun, making all this money as a ball player, trying to be Robo Thug.
Stupid.
And every single person in the hood, you know who I'm mad about? You know who I'm mad at? His daddy. Because your dad, Ja Morant, dad, you enabled this behavior. You stopped being a dad because your son started making money. You got caught up in the success, and now you can't tell your dad, I don't care how much money my son and my daughter makes. I don't care if they're multimillionaires. I'm still going to be there to correct, discipline, guide, mold,
to put it this way, you're never too old for an ass whooping.
Facts. And that's the problem where a lot of these kids are. They get to the point where they think that, well, I'm so much successful than my parents that I can do whatever I want. No, they are still your parents. You still gotta hold them with some sort of utmost love and respect.
Start running up.
Anywho,
it's like, oh, you're successful, huh?
Well, guess
yeah, and
that means you're gonna just get hit with the Gucci belt.
But a lot of these people, that's what they think. A lot of these people who get famous off of YouTube, famous off TikTok, and Instagram, all this stuff, they keep the same mentality, and they be like, well, my parents is this, my parents. No, a lot of times, the people who's really in high regards, they hold their parents in equally as high regard. Why? Because their parents was probably helping them push. Even though they may not necessarily agree, they're still helping them be successful in
Now,
the background.
Fellas,
But
since
anyway, we got
we're
to
coming down to,
yes.
we're coming down to a close here. We have to talk about the greatest father of all time.
Facts.
We have to talk about him before we close it out. Because not just this day, but every day should belong to him. And of course, I'm speaking of the Heavenly Father.
Amen.
I'm speaking of the Lord, our God, currently. You know, let us not forget that he is described as a loving father. Specifically, he is a loving father to those who are found in his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ. And he is the greatest father to ever exist and will ever exist because of what he's done and what he continues to do. He was a father to those who hated him before they came to know him, and he takes care of them, not only in this life, but in the life to come and for the rest of eternity. Just like any other father, a child cannot provide for the father, but the father provides for the child everything he has. Once you get to truly know the Lord and his role as father and not just as God, not that his role as God should be played down by no means, but since we're just talking about the father part at the moment, his role as father is one of the most beautiful, humbling, heart-softening things you could think of because of what he has done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what he did to his own son so that he can have many sons and daughters who are found in his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ. You know, the love of the Father is so immense, so overwhelming, and so overpowering. You know, some people think, you know, you turn to God God is not just a get out of hell card.
Get out of hell free card.
Yeah.
Get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
No, get out of hell free card.
He's not a get out of hell free card. It's not out of fear, it's out of love. It's love. To miss out on the love he's displaying and pouring out to those who are willing to accept it. The love you miss out on, the love you reject, you know. That's why it's a rejection, right? But if you choose to humble yourself and rely on him as Father, as in he takes care of you in every way, you do nothing. Not a thing. You are just a little baby and he's taking care of you. It don't matter how old you get, guess what? He's eternal. Right? You can never, just like how you can't outgrow your biological dad, you're never going to outgrow the need of your Heavenly Father.
Facts.
Right. So, you know, we gotta give honor to him, not just today, but every day.
Every day.
But just gotta bring him up as well.
Oh, yeah,
it is Father's Day, and
That's
like I said, he's the greatest father who's ever and will ever exist. Okay. So praise the Lord, our God, Yahweh, the Heavenly Father, you know, and as well praise the Lord Jesus Christ, our Master, and then praise the Holy Spirit, He who dwells within those who believe,
Amen.
empowering us, strengthening us, sanctifying us, and purifying us. So if you haven't yet today, brothers or sisters, I do hope that you take a chance to pray and just give thanks to God for, one, allowing you to see this day, and two, for what he's done and for what he will do. For in the Bible it says, I have said it and I will do it. Yep. And that goes for literally everything. Not only salvation, but judgment.
That's facts.
That's facts.
All right, brothers.
Anyway, but we gotta roll. You know, brother gotta eat. You know,
You got to
I
eat.
gotta go kiss the fams.
I gotta eat. Gotta make sure the fam's cool.
You gotta go for it.
Gotta go eat. But anyway, besides that, actually we're gonna set it real short, real fast. I'm gonna get it nice, quick, and easy. First of all, to all the fathers, have a great Father's Day. You know, enjoy yourself. Enjoy hanging out with your kids. I know your kids, you know, whether they're in your life heavy or just, you know, not so much. I know that you love your kids. I know they love you. So just make sure you enjoy this day tomorrow. But don't, just like I say for Mother's Day, you know, Father's Day shouldn't just be subjective for one day. It should be kind of a constant thing going. Same thing like Mother's Day. Outside of that, this has been, 56?
Episode 56.
Laying pipe with the PVC
And
crew.
Lord
Can I
willing,
say one quick thing though before you wrap it up though? Just I just want to say to all the real ones out there, much love and respect to you guys. To all the real fathers who's on the grind and taking care of their kids and all the responsibility and do what you gotta do. Much love and respect. And always remember this, world. Salt is not always like sugar.
Man,
leave it like that.
No, we're gonna get that's next episode.
I'm just leaving that.
No.
So, I'm just leaving it at that. I'm just leaving it at that. So.
You're gonna get us started. I don't have enough time to start.
All right, so I know.
For the next podcast,
one, I just want to put that in the air.
Next podcast, the next couple of days, we're going to be talking about that. That one we will probably be doing live. We're going to probably be doing that on Twitch on live.
To make you people start listening more consistently, every prologue of every episode is now the epilogue of the next episode. So if you don't hear all the way to the end of one episode, you ain't going to understand what's going on in the next episode.
That's a whole fact. But anywho,
it's not mine.
Are you my daddy? That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, it's been episode 56, Lane Pipe with the PVC Crew. For my man Paul, for my man Vic. My name is Cam, a.k.a. Mr. Nerd Boy Fresh. Freaky! Like always, it is God above everything. Till the next time, family, we will do this again soon.
Much love and respect.
Next week. Salute.